Hey guys, it's Susie from Vasco here. So, with AI tools dropping every single day and POVs flooding LinkedIn, it's easy to get overwhelmed as a rep or a GTM leader. So, we've asked two sales leaders, Justin from Vasco and Jacob from Attention, to pull some hot questions out of this AI shaker and get their take on how AI is shaping GTM. Fellas, take it away.
Let's get down to business.
Do it.
We have a lot here. What's the biggest day-to-day change you've seen for reps since using AI?
Yeah, I would say the biggest day-to-day change that I've seen from reps comes down to like efficiency and productivity, right? I think in this new world, reps no longer have to spend as much time on admin work. So I think something simple, just like the follow-up email, has like immensely changed the way that reps operate. It's a task that like no one actually likes to do, but is vital to your sales cycle. And I think in the old world, emails were very lackadaisical, right? They didn't really highlight the right things that you needed to really focus on. It was more of like a to-do, even though it is important for velocity. So I think in today's world, people are sending way more effective follow-ups, but leveraging AI, it's way more effective because it's listening to the conversations, it's analyzing it, it's putting it in the right format, highlighting the key points, but it's also giving reps time back in their day. Like that was a 10 or 15-minute task. That's now 1 or 2 minutes, right? And if you multiply that over 5 or 6 meetings a day, over 5 days a week, that's a lot of time saved, but also a lot more high quality touch that you're putting in front of your prospects.
Love it. Yeah, I feel like I've seen a similar change on specifically the admin side. Now it's a day of, whenever you jump in a call, if every rep's note taker on the call or everybody's note taker that's attending, and just being able to get those summaries and, get whether it's the SPICE methodology that you're following or the MEDPIC filled out and, populated into the CRM, whereby you can then, speed up then the outreach thereafter, or at least, be able to gather that info in a much more efficient and proper way than you'd be able to otherwise. So that's a huge like day-to-day change that I've seen. And I feel like just the way people are prospecting too is a lot less like of a spray and pray approach, but more of a, very signal based and, really outreaching at the right time, based on, all this, the automation and signals you can have flow into the CRM automatically. Right.
Yeah. And it's also transformed like onboarding as well, right? I think
Mhm.
like the onboarding process is a bit more autonomous, like in the right way. Like today, you can just like ask questions over all of your conversations and your CRM data and say, hey, like when this competitor comes up, like what are our best reps saying to overcome that, right? So I think that
Yeah.
the time to consume and learn information is a lot faster. Than as a leader, it's more helping fill in the gaps and answering questions, right? Versus
Mhm.
like building out this entire onboarding plan, which we have, but it's more so like giving the ability to access information a lot faster really speeds up a rep's ability to like just like get deeply ingrained into the business and like build up that acumen or IQ on the business a lot faster.
Agreed. Agreed. There was at first when he said onboarding, it made me think of like the implementation side, but I agree with on the onboarding of employees. But I would even say like, when you think of when you sign a customer and it goes to onboarding, right? Like there's a lot less of the implementation consultant having to re-ask the same questions that were asked maybe twice or three times prior to that account hitting them. And now it's, just the flow of information between departments is a lot more seamless and a lot less redundant for the customer at the end of the day. That just makes the experience so much better for them. So yeah,
100%. Like we've seen that. Like there's so many like agentic activities you can take, like so like deal mark, close one in CRM, Slack the CSM, and account brief.
exactly.
Right. So I'm
Yeah.
with you. It's like you hear from so many people that the handoff process is always a little iffy, and then it's repetitive questions, like lack of knowledge of where to drive the implementation. But using AI, you can extract all the right information and put it where the CSM actually operates, and make that experience for the customer way stickier and way more effective. Where has AI made your process smoother, and where has it slowed you down?
Yeah, so wins and wrecks, I think you can't just say that it's only wins at the end of the day. But where we've seen it be instrumental is in the prospecting side, whereby we're catering our outreach to the accounts that require or um that are best suited for outreach and that it's the most timely. So almost that GTM engineered approach, whereby you're orchestrating all the different tools and being able to convey a task to then the rep to then execute on. That's a workflow win that we're starting to see on our end. In terms of Rex, I feel there's almost the adoption of tools like ChatGPT that can be a little too excessive at times. Like having someone write out multiple prompts to get an email written, whereby it could have taken far less time just writing out the email than having let's say ChatGPT review it, is sometimes a can be overdone, or just the research on accounts. So I find there's a balancing act when it comes to leveraging the tools and not overly doing it, and knowing how to use the tools and how to properly write out the prompts so that you're efficiently getting the outcome that you want. I know, speaking with Toma from your team, that was like a big thing at one point, just like people's ability to write out prompts and it not resulting in the say output that they're asking. And there's almost an art behind that. So I think there's some education to be done around how to use these AI tools and the prompting, and not overdo it either, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think the top of funnel is really interesting. Like, I think that's one piece where we actually like we're like slowed down a bit. We initially took like a bottoms up approach where we let like our BD team start to build their own lists on tools like Clay. And those tools can be a little complex, right? And I think to scale, when you have 6 or 7 different BDRs trying to build their own account lists, you see a lot of like variance in how quickly or how effective of lists people build. And I think that slowed us down because we were just sourcing sometimes the wrong accounts or people were stuck not doing outreach. So when we flipped on our head and took a little more of a top-down approach where it was like, let us enrich the lists, let us like do the TAM, let us get you the right accounts, let us get you the right contacts and the contact information, and then go. AI has been really effective for the top of funnel, but I think it's important to make sure there's like ownership over 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 the tool, because you can see like a lot of, I think in our like hiccups, which we saw is like saying, hey, here's Clay, go, which can be a bit of a challenge. I'd say the biggest win for us is around deal risks. I think for me, as a sales leader, where our reps are working a lot of pipeline at once, trying to figure out how I prioritize my time in which opportunities like have the most leverage to move forward, understanding what is a good opportunity and like surfaced by AI, and then also what are the risks of those opportunities. So when I'm having my one-on-ones and my forecasting calls with the rest, we're focused on the execution, right? Like, here's the inherent risk. This is what we need to solve for. Let's strategize around it, versus it being like a 15-minute conversation of me just like drilling down on questions to try and find the right information. So I think like objective views of opportunities through like risk signaling and scoring of opportunities has been really, really effective for us to make sure we're not only working the right opportunities, but we're taking the right steps in those opportunities to move them on with urgency and addressing the right problems.
Yeah, I think prioritization is definitely like a key component in leveraging the tools and how it can help you, just whether it's prioritizing tasks, prioritizing um, you know uh, accounts to be worked, and so on. So definitely agree with that, especially in a high velocity engine like your own.
Yeah.
Are reps excited, skeptical, or just tired of new tools?
It's a good question. I think it's somewhere between excited and skeptical. I think we're starting to live in a world where ideally your new AI tools are another platform that you have to go into. So I don't know if tired is there yet, because it's not like we've bought in like 6 point solutions where now I have to go and learn and embed myself in 6 different tools. But that being said, it is now like more of an insights engine and a process engine. So reps now they are like fundamentally changing how they operate. So they have to put a lot of trust, right, in the information they're being served or the new process or workflow that they're following. So I think they're excited because the benefits of AI are great. I think sometimes there's a bit of skepticism of like, am I going to blindly follow these insights that I'm being served, or am I going to like re-architect? Like, I'm a top performing rep. Am I going to really re-architect how I've been working my days for the last 10 years in this new world? And is it actually going to make me better? I think ultimately what we're seeing is like, if you buy in, it does. But I think there's a little bit of hesitancy around like process change in this new world, because top performers who've been around for a while have such a proven track record of what their work and what they're doing. So I think that depending, it's a bit skepticism. I don't think people have hit like tired yet, because they're not being asked to go into 6, 7, 8 new platforms. It's more of like how we're actually being delivered information.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. On our end, I would echo that. It's a lot. There's a lot of excitement. I have our team coming to me every week with new tools that they've seen and that they think we should implement. And at times I need to prioritize what's actually the most relevant, and at times it is very relevant what they're bringing to the table. But it comes down to, I think, addressing or understanding the problems that you have first, and which problems need to be addressed first and foremost. And then does that tool that they're bringing to the table address that? If not, then it becomes noise. It's that new shiny tool that every kid sees, and they want it, but at the end of the day, it's do you really need it, right? And so addressing it in a way where it's first and foremost addressing the biggest problem is, I think, key. But I must echo that, like, there's excitement. Everyone has seen all the new tools. There's a lot of promises being made in terms of what these tools can address. So it's inevitable that there is that level of excitement.
If you could build one impossible AI feature tomorrow, what would it do?
I feel like there's whenever you have your wish list, you see a company that's almost making that promise. Um, where when it comes down to, again, like the problems or like the irritants or the frustrations that you might have as a sales leader is, having your team update the CRM and making sure that everything is as clean as possible so that you can get the best insights at the end of the day, right? From your CRM. So for me, it's having almost a CRM that is not even touched by the rep, whereby it's pulling in all the information from the calls, from the emails. You have stage progressions that are happening as a result. When quote is signed, it's updating the deal to close one. I know there's a lot of tools that are coming out that are getting to that point. I think it's the future of CRMs. But then having the data structured in a way where you can easily query it and being able to get those insights, understand how you perform the plan, and so on. I feel is the next stage in terms of where we're headed, and would be my personal wish list for something to have right now, anyways.
Yeah, I love that. For me, I don't think anyone's really cracked the like top of funnel like account assignment. Like there are companies where you can upload account lists, right? But like I think embedding in like your call data, your CRM data, and like helping you build and understand your TAM, and then based off of your TAM, prioritizing accounts, and then based off of like then using signals to help you kind of gauge the right accounts. There's just so many companies out there. What I find is like when you do that manually, it's a way easier to look for edge cases. I don't think anyone's really cracked to say like, hey, BDR, here are the 300 best accounts you should work based off of where you guys are converting, based off of third-party signals, based off of compelling events we've learned from your conversations, and like what are the hottest companies today based off of who you've sold to. Like I don't think anyone has really like cracked that like disparate system. How do we tie everything together to say here are actually the accounts you should work? Like today, like signals are a hot topic, but to me, it's not. It's not. It's directionally accurate. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not really covering like, hey, here are actually your 300 best accounts. I think there's like a lot missing. Like I had a really interesting conversation yesterday where it's like, hey, what if account 1,000 for you knew that their CRO was always going to pick up the phone, but account 20 for you, they hate cold outreach, right? Like that's an example of a signal that like I was never really thinking about, and that would help me reprioritize how I think about like our actual addressable market of who we should be targeting, right? So I think there's a lot missing right now when building account lists with AI of making sure it's actually all encompassing. So for me, my dream state would be like, hey, here are the 300 best accounts for X, Y, Z reasons across these 3 or 4 different systems.
It almost has me thinking too, like, also then who is your best rep to then handle that account, right? Because it's like at the end of the day, every rep has their strengths, and it's trying to find who is best suited for that lead. So layering that component on top of it would be amazing.
Yeah. We always talk about like it would be kind of fun if you had like the router was based on like personal characteristics. Like if you knew
Exactly.
like I loved cooking or I loved the Philadelphia Eagles and someone came down our router and they were from Philly and they had sports on their LinkedIn, like that should go to me. Like right. Like and like that's not a world that exists right now. But that is like we talk about all the time is like how do you actually match, like could you match the right leads to people just off of like interest? Because people buy from people they like. So like if you can match people on interest, like that'd be really interesting.
Which sales problems can't be solved by AI yet?
Yeah. So for me, I think one of the pieces that can't be solved, and I don't know will ever be solved, is the like combination of business acumen and curiosity for a discovery call. I just think that that is a piece that like AI will never be able to replace that. And right now, especially, like I think you can give a rep a talk track on a call and they'll do the 80% that you might want them to, but your top performers are going to be like genuinely really curious about your prospect's business, right? And have like the business acumen to have like a very thoughtful conversation. And AI is not at a place where it can actually recommend very deep, thoughtful questions based off of like highly either like technical or deep conversation about a business in real time, right? Like I think your best reps, like their ability to like self-retrieve information based off of you explaining like your problem or your pain point, right? Is AI is just not at a point where it can surface like actually the right curious, like high business IQ questions in real time.
I'm a huge believer of that, and also showcasing passion, when you're selling and, being passionate about your product and conveying that, right? Like how else would you achieve that without a human, right? I don't see it. So like I'm a believer of the AI tools enhancing, removing admin work and helping reps prioritize tasks and being a lot more efficient. But at the end of the day, this is just removing the layers of admin and tasks that have been added on to the sales art over the last few years. And it's bringing back that craft, right? And it's bringing back that craft of, the sales reps being able to truly sell, discover, and really position the product, show passion, and build those relationships that at the end of the day, that's what sales is, right? So huge advocate of that.
Yeah, I love that. Like I was at a conference last week in Atlanta, and at dinner I was sitting next to a CRO who was employee 15 at his company,
Mhm.
and now they're like a multi-thousand. He runs an org of like 300 people, and he was telling me that their first ever customer was a Fortune 50, and they went in person for every meeting. And they asked once they became a customer, like, why did you become a customer? Right? They were trying to like build a repeatable sales playbook. And
Mhm.
the Fortune 50 company said, your energy and passion for solving this problem. Like when you walked in here, like everyone believed that like you guys could just solve for this. Like the way in which you were speaking, the energy you brought, the passion you brought for this problem. Like we were like, we trust these guys. Let's do it, right? And they were like, okay, maybe that's not scalable, but like, yeah, that is part of sales. Like if you bring that level of energy and passion to the sales process and to the problem you're trying to solve, like people want to jump on your ship. They want to believe in you. So I agree.
Yeah.
That'll never be like that. That won't be
Mhm.
replaced.
Mhm. Yeah, I think especially with the tools that like attention, like Vasco, you're selling the future in terms of what the product can bring to the table, and you want somebody that's passionate about it. So, and also the in real life component. I think like even with trade shows, like it's almost coming back now. People love attending trade shows. It's almost as if it's just getting out of the day to day, which is behind your laptop, and I think that's very relevant. So.
How do you shop for AI tools?
I feel there's a lot of noise, obviously, and that's one of the themes of this session. But with there being a lot of noise, you come back to people that and like what you're hearing from your peers. And at the end of the day, like when I'm shopping, it's typically recommendations, or it's a tool that I know somebody else is using, and they would recommend it, or it maybe came up in conversation, and then that steered maybe a deeper conversation about the tool. So yeah, like I'm all about the peer recommendations. And it allows you to cut through the noise too at the end of the day when it's coming from a reco as opposed to an ad that you're seeing, or somebody reaching out to you, right?
Yeah, I love that. Peer recommendation is massive. And I always try to like do this like mental exercise of like when I'm looking at tools is like there's the like, oh, cool AI and something that's actually valuable, right? I think it's really easy to get lost in like the oh, cool because it's flashy, it's new, it
Mhm.
seems innovative. But at the end of the day, like,
Mhm.
is that actually going to drive business impact? So I think for me is I try to like separate in my head, like, am I just like attracted to the shiny object that like is giving me that oh cool moment? Or do I actually think I can embed this into our existing workflow or augment our workflows in a positive direction that actually drives business impact? Right. So like when I'm evaluating tools, I'm like very focused on like, hey, this is actually the one or two metrics that like I've identified I want to solve for in this business. And like, here's how implementing this can actually help me achieve that. I think that's really, really important. Like I know that's how people evaluate technology broadly, but I think in today's
Yeah.
world, it's really easy to get sidetracked from that
Mhm.
because of how shiny and how much pressure there is to adopt AI. That I think people are kind of attracted to like the oh cool new shiny thing. So I make sure that like I kind of go back to like first principles thinking when it comes to evaluating
Mhm.
tools.
There was a visual that Winning by Design came out with, showcasing the entire bow tie, so the customer journey from lead to expansion retention. And they basically pointed out all the problems that can happen at each part of that journey, and those problems that can be solved with AI. So that was a little eye-opening in terms of like looking at it in that way, where okay, well, where's the problem first and foremost across the bow tie? What are the tools or what are the ways you can solve those problems, and then starting the conversation there, as opposed to your point, like just seeing that shiny tool or that shiny toy and thinking it's cool and what you want, right? So yeah, all about the peer recommendations, and obviously just like finding exactly where the problem is and then addressing it from there. What's your opinion on HubSpot's new ChatGPT plugin?
Yeah, we use Salesforce, so like I, to be honest, like have
Okay.
very limited knowledge. Like I've heard from the streets that it's like,
Uh,
eh,
from what I've seen on our end, we've tested out internally, and we've had discussions about it. Um, the issue is that ChatGPT obviously doesn't know your go-to-market structure, how you go to like what the customer journey looks like, what teams are responsible for what actually defines, say, an MQL or sales accepted lead. So there's not necessarily the business understanding. So there's at times when you're asking or when you're querying whatever it may be, you're not necessarily getting a valuable output, right? Or it might not be fully accurate. So it's the topic of garbage in, garbage out. If the data is not structured, you're not really setting yourself up for the best insights. So I feel like where a lot of the tools are headed is that MCP approach, whereby it's standardizing the way the data is structured, so that then you can layer on the AI to the insight afterwards. So that's our approach, specifically with Vasco, and I guess what we're trying to address with the data normalization, and then map into the bow tie and so on.
Yeah, and I can speak to that like more broadly. Like I agree, like context is king. And I think today a lot of systems are missing out on that. And I think away from just having the context, revenue data itself is very unstructured, right? Like a call, an email, like notes from a rep, like all of these data points are very unstandardized and unstructured. So running AI on top of it to actually pull something meaningful is really challenging. Like the traditional RAG approach might not work. Like if you're looking over a 10K trying to find, executive comp, that's very easy to locate in a big document. But if you're trying to get pain points out of, hundreds of transcripts to redefine your sales process, like people don't say my pain points are 1, 2, 3, right? Those are ever evolving things throughout many interactions throughout a sales process. And then to do that over hundreds or thousands of sales processes, it's really challenging to get the right information.
In one sentence, what will sales and AI look like in 2026?
To me, it's AI in sales in 2026 will enable reps to be even more autonomous and then predictive of their sales process and their deals. And I think we're living in a world where like you're getting very directionally good intelligence, but there still is like human in the loop requirements. And I think that AI sometimes does miss specific business context on your opportunities. So I think when you think of like proactive risk identification, there's things that are like standard of like, hey, we haven't engaged the economic buyer. You might want to do that, which I think AI is at today. I don't think where we're quite at today is, hey, you're working this deal with a pharmaceutical company, and in the last 5 deals with pharmaceutical companies, when you've engaged us, we've seen CIOs get involved early in the deal. You might want to engage the CIO in this specific opportunity, right? I think we're getting to a world where it's going to be a lot more dynamic and surface more unique insights for a given opportunity because of historicals or anomalies in data changes. To give you more predictive and more accurate actions to take versus like your standard MedPick sales playbook. So I think reps are going to be a lot more proficient and execute at a way higher level in 2026, given the ability to surface more dynamic insights.
I feel with the use of like the ChatGPTs of this world and how it's become embedded in our day to day, we'll want to have those same interactions with all our tools in terms of getting insights. And I feel like we're not there yet, but I think in the coming months, it's gonna be very telling in terms of how all these tools allow you to get further insights in the way that we do use like a ChatGPT as an example, right? So whether that's pulling insights in terms of go to market, how your teams are performing, how to prioritize, whether it's an effort across the entire customer journey, those are the types of questions that we'll be looking to ask our tools, and be able to drive also the initiatives that run the business, right? So that's where I see it going, and it's leveraging all the data that's not now a lot more accessible, and that's being digested and cleaned and formatted in by tools like Attention and Vasco. So yeah, it should be interesting to see what that with the next few months, how the next few months play out. But that's how I see it going.
Yeah, and like to take one more stab at it again, I think is that AI in sales in 2026 will also be more creative, right? I think the tools will enable reps to do actions and create tasks that they were never able to do before. Like I think one example I can think of is we were in a sales process and we knew that our buyer was really into golf. But we felt it was kind of a stalling deal. So we thought it was a bit weird to be like, hey, let us send you golf balls, right? Like the typical gifting platforms didn't have like custom golf balls, right? So it's like, how do we get in front of this prospect with gifting where it's not like us just like, hey, let us send you a gift to pick up this, right? So what we were able to do was using Lovable, we created our own gifting platform that was like a custom landing page for the prospect where we were able to like then collect their contact information. It seemed like it was coming from a third party, right? Asking to send custom Pro V1s. and for them to enter all of the information, and then we could just go buy them and send them, right? So I think
Yeah.
AI enables you to also just be way more creative as a seller, because there are things you can create, actions you can do with tools like Lovable and these low code platforms or no code platforms that can just make you more creative and more effective.
Yeah, creativity, you feel it now, like I feel like in general in in go-to-market, there's a lot more creativity than we saw a few years ago. So yeah, definitely agree with that. There's also, I feel there's always the discussion around like build versus buy. And with all the data that you get access to, it's like, okay, well, am I going to build out the tools to be able to get these insights that I need, or do I look at tools that can provide those insights in a cheaper way, right? So I think that's always going to be a lot of the questions that we're asking ourselves, specifically around build versus buy, and that will lead to, I guess, some of the tools that are very specific in what they're catering to, and delivering a use case that addresses that. So.
Well, there you have it. That's our take. Now we want yours. Drop in the comments which AI tools that you're currently loving in your sales process. The industry is moving fast. Let's help each other out. See ya.